Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. This channel, Arid Science, is all about trying to learn various concepts of data science by practicing a lot of questions. In this video, we are going to solve this question on Leetcode regarding longest winning streak. The difficulty level of this question is hard, and I'm going to share the SQL schema as well as the Panda schema in the description box below. Okay, the question reads: we are given a table called matches with three different columns: player ID, match day, and result. The combined columns player ID and match day is the primary key, that is combination of columns with unique values for this table. Each row of this table contains the ID of a player, the day of the match they played, and the result of the match. The result column is an enum category which can take values win, draw, or lose. The winning streak of a player is the number of consecutive wins uninterrupted by draws or losses. We are asked to write a solution to count the longest winning streak for each player. Order of the result does not matter. Okay, let's go through this example. So here we have player ID 1, 2 and 3. So for player ID 1, what is the longest winning streak? 3. For player ID 2, only losses, so 0. And for player ID 3, played only one match and won that. So longest winning streak is 1. And that is what you have in our output. So to solve this question, what we need to do is, if you have been following this series, we have solved certain type of questions where we had to find consecutive seeds, consecutive numbers, etc. This is just an advanced application of the same logic that we developed there. But you might be wondering how. If you look at the match day, they are not consecutive. So the difference could be 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, whatever, right? So you can play a match literally any day with any type of gap. So what we need is, yes, we do not have a pattern here, but we can say that for a particular player, this was their first match, second match, third match, fourth match, fifth match, and so on. And then we can see the result to see whether we have a streak or not. So let's go step by step and do this. So from this table called matches, what we are basically doing is, let us return all the three columns and then rank. So row number, let's use the row number to rank here, and since this is a window function, we need to write over clause, and then for every player ID we want it, right? So partition by the player ID and then order by the match day in ascending order, and let us alias this as match sequence. Okay, let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. Okay, so if we look at it, let me just drag it to the left, right, and above. So you have for player ID 1, this was the first match, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. Similarly for 2 and 3. Okay, now for every player ID, we know the match sequence. What we can also do that, okay, for every player ID, can we know the result sequence as well? So what I mean by that is, this was the first win, second win, third win. Then this was the first draw. This was the fourth win. Similarly for 2, this was the first loss, second loss, and so on. So to get that, what we can do is, and that is going to basically help us in the next step. I will tell you how. So let us do the same thing. We need to get row number. So basically we are ranking over and then partition by. So for every player ID as well as the result, we are going to rank and then order by the match day in ascending order, and let's alias this as result sequence. Let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. Now if you look at it, you have for player ID 1, this was the match sequence, and then this is the result sequence. So first win, second win, third win, and then fourth win, and this is the first row, and so on for all the player IDs. Okay, what do we want? We want the longest winning streak. That is, we are only concerned about results where it is a win. Okay, let's go step by step, right? Because this question is very tricky and confusing. So let us firstly store this entire thing in a common table expression. And then what we are doing is, we just saw that we are only concerned about the winning streak. That is, the result should be a win. Okay, so from this common table expression, keep only those rows where result is equal to win, and then let me return all the columns for now. Okay, so now once we have this, let us look at this. So what does this tell us? So for player ID 1, there are 4 different wins. So first match, second match, third match, and fifth match, they won. And if you see the result sequence, so you need to read this column along with the result column, that yes, this was the first win, second win, third win, and this was the fourth win. So if you just think about it, right? So if you subtract these two, if you are continuously winning, the difference between the match sequence and the result sequence will always be the same. Just like the concept that we developed when we were trying to find out the consecutive nature, that if your match sequence increases by 1 and your result sequence is increasing by 1, and since we have only kept result equal to win, that means if your match is increasing by 1 and you are still winning the next match, the difference is going to be exactly the same. So here in first 3 it is going to be 0. Then we saw that fourth match was a draw for player ID 1, and then fifth match was a win. So now if you look at it, 5 minus 4 is going to be 1, which is different than 1 minus 1, 2 minus 2, and 3 minus 3, right? So what does this mean? The moment the difference changes, consecutive nature goes away, and we know that the streak has ended. So you see how we are going to do that. So let us get the difference between match sequence and result sequence. That will make this even more clear. So match sequence minus result sequence, and let's alias this as difference. So let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. So we have the difference. So if you look at it, right? So this person, player ID 1, was consecutively winning from match 1, 2, and 3. So the difference remains 0. But there was a break. So obviously, even though the person won match 5, the difference came out to be different, right? And similarly, if you look at 3, only played one match, won it. So difference is same, right? So once we have this, what we need to find for every player ID, what is the biggest or the longest winning streak? So we can go ahead, group by the player ID and the difference to count the number of matches won consecutively. So what we can do is here group by the player ID and the difference. What is the order of operations in SQL? From where, group by, and then it comes to select. So you cannot just directly write diff here. So basically what is difference? This is difference, right? So what you need to write is group by this, and then you return both of these columns. So let me just copy this here, paste it here, right? So return me the player ID and the difference, and perform a count star to basically give us the wins. So as wins or streak or whatever you want, right? So let me just write streak. Let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. So now if you look at it, you have got for player ID 1, you have two streaks of winning. Firstly, the streak is 3 matches long, and secondly, it is only 1 match long. For 3, only 1 match long, and since 2 did not win anything, so 2 does not belong here. So we need to take care of that also, but we will do that in the last. But here, once we have this, then obviously what you can do is you can go ahead and partition by the player ID, order by the streak in descending manner to get, okay, yes, this was the highest streak, right? Because in the output, you need the longest streak. So what we can do is here only we can rank. So row number over partition by the player ID. So for every player ID, what is the longest streak? So order by count star, right? So that is how we calculated the streak, right? Here, if you look at it, count star in decreasing manner, because we want rank equal to 1 to be assigned to the longest streak. And let's alias this as rank. Let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. So yes, rank 1 is assigned to the highest one. For player ID 1, it is 3, and for player ID 3, it is 1. Okay, now once we have this, what we can do is let's save this in another common table expression. So CTE2 as this entire thing goes into parentheses, and then what we need is from this common table expression 2, we need the longest winning streak of each player ID, right? As the question asks us. So keep only those rows where rank is equal to 1. Return me the player ID and the streak. and that is going to give us for every player ID what is the longest winning streak. If I go ahead and run this, there is still a problem with our solution. What? Let us look at our output. So our output, player ID 1, longest winning streak is 3. For player ID 3, longest winning streak is 1. But in our output, we know that player ID 2 did not win any game. So for them, the longest winning streak is 0 and is not in our output. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that such players who are not winning anything, for them also the longest winning streak is populated as 0 in our output. So what we can do is let's make this as a table. So this is a table. Let's alias this as WT whatever. Let's alias this as T. Okay. Now if you go back to the matches table, you are going to have all the player IDs in the matches table, right? Because we started with the matches table. So here you have player ID 1, 2 and 3. 1 and 3 you know from this that they have won something and you have the longest winning streak for them. For 2 you do not have anything. So what you can do is from this matches table, if you keep the distinct player IDs and left join this result that you calculated. So obviously for 1 it is going to find a match and populate, okay, this is the longest winning streak. For 3 again same stuff. For 2 it won't find a match, so you can say that yes, it is going to be null, and if it is coming out to be null, replace it with 0, right? So you can use the logic. So what you can do is from the matches table aliased as M, let us left join the table that we just created, the output for every player ID, what is the winning streak, who is winning, right? So this table only contains player who have won at least one game. So left join this, both of these tables, matches and the table T that we created, can be joined using the player ID common column, player ID. Then what we are doing is let us return the distinct player ID from the matches table. So m dot player ID, and then if you are finding a match, you are going to have a streak, right, populated from the table T. If not, it is going to be null. So let me just show you that, right? So T dot streak, and this should be aliased as what? Longest streak as our output, right? So as longest streak. Let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get in our output. Still shows wrong answer. Why? Because for that it is going to have null, right? But in our output, such kind of value should be replaced with 0. So yes, if your streak is coming out to be null, that means that person has not won anything. So the longest winning streak is 0. Now let me go ahead and run this. Let's see what do we get. So now if you look at it, it is accepted. Our output is same as expected output. Let me go ahead and submit as we pass all the test cases. So yeah, this is accepted and this is how we do it. So very tricky question, very lengthy question. But if you know about the logic that we developed in this series about how to find consecutive stop, this is just a more advanced version of that same logic. What we basically did was for every player, we found out the match sequence as well as the result sequence. Once we had that, then we only are interested in the winning streak. So we only kept those rows where result was win. And then we grouped by the player ID and the difference between match sequence and the result sequence, because if you are consecutively winning, the difference is always going to be the same. And we counted the streaks and then we ranked so that we get the highest streak as rank equal to 1. And since in our output we need the longest streak, so we kept only those rows where rank is equal to 1. That is one table. But the problem that we saw with this table is that if a player is not winning anything, that player ID is not going to be populated in this table T that we created. So to make sure such kind of player IDs are also in our output, we on the matches table performed a left join using the player ID and made sure that if your streak is coming out to be null, then you replace it with 0. So yeah, this is how we do it. Let me know if there is a better, more efficient solution to solve this question. Let the solution be in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.